Hi everyone, can you hear me pretty good? No worries. So what I'm going to do today is talk a little about some development we're doing out along the Starra Line, a little bit about Swan, and sort of where we're going in our mining up at Selwyn. So yeah, I'll talk about a little bit about the Selwyn Mineral Field Endowment, just what a special part of the world it is, going to the Starra Line, and then talk about Mount Elliott a bit. So 17 slides, so count down if you're getting bored. Pretty much know where Chinova is, south of Cloncurry. We've got a large land holding around the old Selwyn area, and we own the Osborne mine, which is currently not treating anything. So the idea is that we're going to reopen the Starra Line and truck the material down to 50 k's down south to Osborne, and treat that material. Obviously, you can see, just to focus in on the Selwyn area, the Starra Line, you can see it standing up on the TMI there. There's the Merlin rhenium molybdenum mine and the Mount Dore copper mine. Mount Elliott's up here. It's a very small area, but there's a lot of metal there. So obviously the size of the dot is the metal, and then tons and grade. A couple of things fall out of this. You can see that the Starra ore bodies really are gold ore bodies. They're gold mines, and people have talked about Swan. It obviously sticks out as a big blob. There's a lot of metal there, but you know, there's Mount Dore as well. This is not exhaustive, so I haven't even included all the Starra stuff. It's mining depleted, so it's not, you know, it's current resources, and I don't think it's the end either. So an amazing little part of the world again. Cartoon of the Starra Line. So this is the Starra Ridge. Obviously, you probably know by now that you know, these numbers, they're just northings, you know. So they're called Area 222, and it went on from that, and now the deposits are called that. So 222 to the south, and there's some pretty significant underground mines from Selwyn mines back in the 90s, and yeah, it's produced over 1 million ounces of gold and a fair chunk of copper. And that's production history. So 7.7 at, you know, high grade gold and high grade copper from these underground mines. And just to show you that it's not all made up, so that's the actual drilling. I've just filtered that by, I think, copper equivalent greater than 0.5, coloured it up, and you can see the areas here. So really 222, we think we've got potential down plunge north of 222. This area here at 236, we've got a nice little Z fold where we'd like to drill underneath that. 244 we'll have a think about. 254, which is the area between 251 and 257. We're calling it 254 just to confuse you even more. So we've done that, and that's the area we're going to mine. That's the area I'm going to be talking about in the next couple of slides. So you can see, you know, there's still significant remnant resources at 222. There's only over 20 million tonnes of material at above a 0.5 cutoffs, ECU cutoff. So, you know, these are big systems. Next one is, I think, yeah, so that's what we've asked the government to disturb. On the left is the 222 area. We see a cutback of the 222 mine, various infrastructure on the surface to drive in road trains and turn them around and pick up ore and take it back down to Osborne. A waste dump that we don't like, we're going to change the shape of that. On the right-hand side is the 254 area, so two cutbacks, one cutback of the 251 pit, and then another cutback of the 257 pit to the north, and the ridge line in between. And basically a haul road. We're redoing the haul road that we currently have up there. So putting in a lot of culverts across the floodways. We're going to seal it at considerable cost to the management. And then this area here will be our mine offices and all that. And that basically is the old Selwyn mill area. So it's, you know, parts of it are rehabbed. So we've got various areas that we have to disturb rehab, or we can build, put infrastructure on areas that aren't rehabbed, and then there's areas in there that are basically classed as fresh. But it's a disturbed area. There's a tailings dam right there. That's the old Selwyn #1 tailings dam. Yeah, so this is an old photo just showing the area between 251 and 257 and the ridge line in between that Tom and I spent most of last year drilling out. And that's just an eyeball of where the pit's going to go. So we're playing around with scheduling of that. We'll probably mine this pit first and then this pit, and we might do stages on that pit just to get us down into sulphide quicker. Helps our cash flow and also helps de-risk the project metallurgically in terms of some of these upper oxide layers that we're encountering. Metallurgists don't like oxide, don't like to try and float oxide copper for some reason. A little bit about, I pinched this slide from someone. So Starra Ridgeline's really interesting. To me, it really fits this Chilencho dextral wrench regime type situation. This was Tatiana, and I've added a couple of stuff to it. But you can see these things, have been interpreted as a Riedel type D shear with Riedel prime. And just to sort of, say it's not made up, this is just a survey pickup of the old mine at 257. So obviously this is, you mine along the line of load, you come down and you do a U-turn, or more than a U-turn, and you come up this way. So that's really potentially in the Riedel prime position, the antithetic Riedel. And, really is amazing. And that fold structure you can trace all the way down the old 257 mine. Really high grade, real bugger to mine, according to the guys who were on the jumbos doing it at the time. A couple of them still work for us. Well, one in particular. Okay. So some of the challenges we've got, this is a cultural site that sits between just south of 251. It's a Yellena dreaming site. Let's call it children dreaming. So obviously these tours are children. And the story goes, the mother sits somewhere off. I don't know where the mother is, but she told the kids to do something and they didn't do it or whatever. And now they're stoned. So we need to make sure we protect that. So we've done a lot of work with Orica to, look at mining blast vibrations. We're thinking about setting up a radar, but, we'll alter powder factors and monitor that vibration so the tours don't fall over. Next one is, just obviously with guys at Codes and that have spoken a lot about the paragenesis of the area, so I'm not going to do that, but just I've cut this back down. You start off with stably and you end up with that. So it's pretty amazing amount of replacement of the rock. It's a true stratiform IOCG. I don't think anyone's arguing anything different, but yeah, amazing. But it picks out the horizons it likes within the stably and completely replaces it. Okay, just moving on to Mount Elliott. Obviously, yeah, where it is, but it's an historical mine, so there's still a whole chunk of historical stuff at the surface. And yeah, they mined it back in the day in 1901, and produced that amount of material. And then obviously Swan was found by Union Miniere, but in 72, but found, well, it was a small little oxide thing at the surface. So Selwyn mines came back in more recent times and produced that amount of ore, trucked that down to the Selwyn plant. They went broke back in the 90s with really low price, low prices, commodity prices really. And Ivanhoe took over and they really found Swan. How do you can't have a huge deposit like Swan without doing a bit of drilling. So they did 121 Ks in 8 years. A lot of the holes, there's about 40 holes in the database that are above 1,000 metres deep. So, Ivanhoe really had a good go at it. Spoken about this is my boring slide competition. So I reckon I should win for this one. But obviously I just put it in because this is the current resource at Swan, and I haven't even got the cut-off grade there, but it's 0.5 ECU. So ECU is just the copper plus 0.8 of gold. And it's a big number, 353 at 0.6 and 0.25, sorry, 35 gold. But like any of these things, it's, yep, it's big and low grade, but it's sensitive to cut-off grade. So I just did this for a bit of fun, but when you put the log, these are the tons grade curves for, well, for Mount Elliott Swan. And if you log the the Y axis, you see that it's, you know, it's a straight line. So it's really quite intriguing. And it still hangs together at higher cutoffs, but you know, it's a deep, this is Swan and this is Elliott. So yeah, it hangs together well, but it will, you know, it's typical of low grade copper deposits. So what are we doing with Elliott and Swan? Not much really, to be honest. We haven't done a lot. It's been sitting there for the last 10 years. Some of the studies are pretty old and need updating. But, you know, there's potentially a large open cut at Mount Elliott that we could do for those sort of numbers. But there's a dirty great big void at the bottom of the pit. So it's significant resource risk to get down there and you know, your pillar falls into a void. So potentially we have to fill that void. So that means a quarry and an aggregate fill. That's all money. And obviously, is it high enough grade to process down to Osborne? Not sure about that. So potentially we need a new plant and a new tailings storage facility. Swan, the open cut at surface is small because it just doesn't really come to the surface that much. So you need a big sub-level open stoping situation or some sort of cave mine. A lot of risk with that. And the top part of the oxide you cannot leach because it's full of marble and the acid consumption just kills you. And some of the other issues we've got too is that potentially we'd have to move that chimney and rebuild it. That's not going to be easy. Maybe we can rebuild it virtually or something, I don't know. But yeah, that's currently what we're being told. And also there's a lot of uranium in the ore body. It's sort of nuisance uranium. Obviously, we don't want it getting in a con because Glencore don't want uranium in a con. And but you know, could we recover it and all that? That's a body of work that's got to be done. Okay, that's been talked about. So this is an old slide that you know, we're seeing the work that Jonathan and Max are doing down at Codes has been really good for us because it's simplified a lot of this stuff and showing that mafic association. And we really see the mafics all through the project area as being important. And so it makes a lot of sense to us. And it's a real usual suspect because at Starra too, we're seeing these mafic bodies right in the guts of all these domains at Starra. So it's very interesting. And a story's to be told there with these mafics, and I think the story's just beginning, so watch this space. Yeah, just to finish, look, Mount Elliott, there's a ridiculous amount of open space filling going on at Mount Elliott mine where, you know, there's just megabreccias. This is just there's better pictures of this, but I put this one in because it shows all that calcite and the rock bolts there for scale. But Corbould, he was a mining engineer back in the day. He ran the mine back in the early days, and he's sort of, you know, he waxed lyrical about this stuff. And so, you know, metallic copper and copper red erubicite, malachite. The floor of the cave was chrysocolla, and it goes on and on. It's really quite good. So I'm just challenging you guys. I mean, if a mine engineer can say this, we need to, geologists, I think we need to, you know, lift our game as well. So that's the end of the talk. If we've got any questions, I'll put this in. It's not all beer and skittles. I mean, that there is a hematite running sand that we encounter at 222. So it's a matter of luck whether the driller gets through it or not. It's horrible stuff. You hit it underground, it just mines itself. You keep bogging, it'll just keep coming. So yeah, but you know, the guys have mined for it before, so it can be done. That's it.